Thank you, Greg, for that inspiring talk. Student voice is vital to a healthy community. Hi, my name is Cecilia Wood, and I'm a senior at Reservoir High School. I have the honor of introducing Ms. Marian Maddow. She is an operations analyst at the World Bank and the founder of the social venture GRID. Through GRID, she is working towards mainstreaming video games as a medium for behavior change. GRID games address social issues, such as racial and gender stereotyping, sanitation and hygiene, STEM learning, and women empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, Marian Maddow.
Alright. Hey everybody, I'm Marian Maddow, the founder of GRID, Gaming Revolution for International Development. I'm going to start by sharing a memory from back when I was 16. It was a long time ago. But it's one of those memories that's so vivid in my head, and I remember every little detail. I was taking a math exam, and 3 questions into it, I felt a sinking feeling of cramp in my tummy. Now I was crushing the exam, so I knew it couldn't be the nerves. My fever had started, and I was not prepared, and I was in a room with mostly men, both teachers and students. Now, as I sat there, looking at what was supposed to be a kick-ass exam, I felt a feeling of paralysis slowly creep over me. And I started thinking, the idea of getting up, walking to my teacher, explaining the situation to me, requesting a bathroom supply stack, excusing myself for a couple of minutes, and then returning to my seat as if nothing ever happened, was so daunting that instead I ran out to the hall after handing in my half-filled exam with tears in my eyes. Today, when I look back at that moment, I feel silly about my faith. My sense of embarrassment, my paralysis from shame. The 16-year-old girl that sat in the hall that day, she would rather fail an exam than admit to her peers that she was on her period. To me, my period was an evil thing, something so evil that I could not even say the word, almost like the Dark Lord from Harry Potter. She must not be me. Now, while some of you in the audience may relate to the stigma I felt, you're probably wondering, is this menstrual shame really worth the 12-minute TEDx talk? Well, what if I told you that 23% of girls in India actually drop out of school when they start their period? That 48% of girls in Iran think menstruation is a disease. That right here in the US, most homeless women don't have access to basic feminine hygiene products. And what if I told you that last month the same menstrual stigma was responsible for the death of a 15-year-old girl in Nepal? Roshni Tiruva died in a menstrual cup. These huts are made for girls in rural Nepal so they can sleep outside their homes because they're considered impure. In these huts, girls face the threat of attacks by wild animals, or, as in Roshni's case, carbon monoxide poisoning, which is basically because of the fires that are lit to keep these huts warm. The shame and stigma around menstruation manifests in oppression of the kind that few of us pay attention to. It's this oppression that continues as long as the stigma continues to be a part of the fabric of our society. In order to break this oppression, we have to educate and raise awareness, engage and trigger dialogue, inspire and create social change. Because we not only have to recognize the problem, but also move towards finding a solution. Now, how do you educate, engage, and inspire people all over the world around the social issue that's as taboo as menstrual hygiene? I do so through games because I'm the founder of GRID, Gaming Revolution for International Development. We at GRID believe that games can be used to create knowledge and address knowledge gaps around social issues. We think that games, because they are interactive, iterative, and inspiring, they can create an impact on our brains that appeals to the human psychology and far transcends the virtual boundaries of the world where we play these games. At GRID, we play games about breaking stereotypes, racial, gender, ethnic. We play games about making math learning fun. We play games about educating policymakers on how to conduct randomized control. We're now working on games for financial literacy, student loans, climate change, sanitation and hygiene, and my absolute favorite, menstrual health. Mohim is a game about periods. The word itself means an effort in Urdu, and it has the acronym MHM in it. It stands for Menstrual Health Management. It's a simple game with a twist. We believe, gone are the days of crushing candies. It's time to catch those bags with onions. The game inspires and challenges people to catch bags by maneuvering a pair of onions. You have to do that, but you also have to avoid objects that should not be used to control period. Stuff like leaves, old rags, newspapers. Now what do you do in that? The game rewards you. The more bags you catch, the more keys you get to myth-busting doors. These are doors behind which you bust on the menstrual myths. And it said, you cannot shower on your period. You cannot get pregnant with it. Or PMS is not real. Mohim makes periods unequal. Not the villain, but the good guy. Something to embrace. Something that's fun to learn and talk about. Since Mohim's launch on the App Store, many paths have been caught, many myths broken, many conversations started. 30 plus newsletters, news articles written about Mohim. Partnerships created with NGOs that believe in women's empowerment and health. But most important, many people, friends, family, and strangers, became champions of change to break this menstrual stigma. All of a sudden, people were learning about periods, talking about periods, laughing about periods. Now, that sounds rosy, but don't get me wrong. We had our fair share of backlash and criticism. But for every one voice that said Mohim was useless, inappropriate, or vulgar, we had 5 voices telling us that it was valuable, necessary, and fun. And the dialogue that Mohim triggered was the very reason behind its creation. Because we at GRID believe that you cannot solve a problem if you don't talk about it. Now, for me, what was really hard to see was the men step up to break the stigma around menstrual health. We launched our Bro Him group, which is for the bros who believe in morning. And we saw men guide the style of change. From those who took a moment to listen and understand the magnitude of the problem, to those who shared it on Facebook, calling it a joke gimmick. We have men of all ages, cultures, and ethnicities supporting them. And guess what? Some even gagged for it. And why not? After all, there is a men in menstruation. Having created the ripple effect of social media, we're now taking Mohim to the bottom building. People who live in the world's poorest. See, we live in a world today where homes as low as $20 are available in areas where even toilets are allowed. And therefore, we have a window of opportunity to reach these people through their homes and inspire behavior change. With our partner, STEP International, we're going to take Mohim to 3,500 girls in Kenya. And this context-relevant, context-vigilant version of the game will actually be customized to the Kenyan context. We believe that by taking Mohim to countries like Kenya, we're reaching out to girls who are the most oppressed because of the menstrual state. When I decided to make Mohim, I wanted to raise my voice for a 16-year-old girl who lived under the menstrual shame, for Roshni, who died in a menstrual harm, and for all those women out there who have been made to feel ashamed of their faith. I hope that I can start a conversation and create a domino effect that can educate, engage, and inspire people all around the world. But you have to have that first domino fall in order to domino effect. And at first glance, it's hard. It takes work. Some would even say it cannot happen. But I'm here because I decided to be a part of that first push. As I stand here today, and I see the stigma begin to break, and the shame begin to lift, I make a promise to remain committed to this bloody cause till the very last domino falls. I'm committed. The question is, are you game? Thank you.